All right, let's just dive right into this. If you sit at a desk all day long, or, maybe you train really hard a few times a week, you probably know this exact feeling all too well. Your hips, your hamstrings, your lower back, they literally feel like they belong to someone twice your age. You stretch, and then you stretch some more, but absolutely nothing changes. Well, today's explainer uncovers exactly why that keeps happening, and honestly, more importantly, how the source material suggests we finally fix it for good. It's an incredibly frustrating question, isn't it? Stretch for years, still tight? You've been doing the work, probably for years at this point, and your hips are just still inexplicably locked up. Your lower back gets totally stiff after a long day at work, and your hamstrings pull the absolute second you try to do anything remotely athletic. Look, it's really cool that you've been putting in the effort, but we kind of have to face the facts here. Years of traditional stretching have completely failed you. You still can't move properly. So, what does this all mean? The crucial takeaway from the source is simply this. It is time to actually fix it. We really need to stop relying on just passive resting and hoping for the best. What we are talking about today is a real, tangible, mechanical fix for our bodies. It's time for a total paradigm shift in how we handle our joints, our muscles, and our daily routines. Now, this is exactly where things go off the rails for most of us. See, there is a massive difference between flexibility and mobility. Flexibility is entirely passive. It's literally just how far your joint moves when gravity or a stretching strap pushes it. Mobility, on the other hand, is active. It's how far you can move that joint yourself, purely under your own muscular control. The core problem is that most of us only ever train the passive side. We sit on the floor after a workout, we let gravity do all the heavy lifting, we count to 30, and then we tell ourselves we did something great. But we totally didn't train our bodies to actively control that new range. The source material highlights a really fascinating dynamic here. When you just stretch passively all the time, your joints get pulled into a range of motion they can't actually control on their own. That gap is where injuries happen. Think about it. If you have flexibility without mobility, you have a joint that can get deep into a stretch, but it has absolutely no active muscular defense when it actually gets there. Our joints desperately need mechanical input to stay healthy. They need active, controlled movement through their full range, not just passive stretching. And this builds directly into our daily habits. If you work a desk job, you really need to hear this. Sitting for 8 hours isn't just you resting your legs. It is cellular tissue breakdown. No, really. Your body literally doesn't care that you are super busy answering emails or stuck in back-to-back Zoom meetings. Without mechanical input and active movement, your tissues are breaking down right at the cellular level. We have to train our joints to actually control their range instead of just passively melting into a chair all day.
Which brings us to our next section.
The 10-minute fix. Here is the exact 5-move routine we're going to cover. We have the downward dog to lunge, the kneeling cossack squat, the glute bridge with rotation, and then 2 variations of seated hip internal rotations. Let's break them down. All right, move number 1 is the downward dog to deep lunge. You're going to do this for just 1 minute on each side. So you start out in a downward dog, and then you actively drive 1 foot forward into a deep lunge, hold it right there, and push back. The source emphasizes that the absolute key here is actively loading the hip flexor at its end range. Remember, we are not just sitting in a stretch waiting for gravity to do something magical, which again is what we've all done for years with zero progress. We are actively commanding this movement. Next up, we've got move 2, the kneeling cossack squat to hamstring stretch, again for 1 minute per side. For this one, you take a nice wide stance, drop one knee to the ground, and actively shift your body weight laterally side to side. So why does this one matter so much? Because most mobility routines fail entirely by only ever working forward and backward. Our hips are ball and socket joints. They are literally designed to move in multiple directions, yet nobody trains those lateral directions. To actually fix our hips, we absolutely have to train those neglected movements. Okay, let's dive right into move 3, because honestly, this is a massive game changer for anyone dealing with a bad back. The glute bridge with rotation, 1 minute each side. You perform a standard glute bridge, but right at the top, you rotate your knee out. This is brilliant because it combines hip extension and thoracic rotation into a single fluid action. And here's why that is so vital. Most lower back stiffness actually starts way up in the thoracic spine, your mid-back. When your mid-back gets stiff and stops rotating properly, your lower back kind of has to step up and cover for it. It overworks itself, and then the lower back ends up taking all the blame and all the pain. Moving right along to move 4, seated hip internal rotations version 1. You do this for 1 minute each side. Sit flat on the floor, keep those knees bent and feet flat, and actively rotate both knees down toward one side. What's super fascinating here is that internal rotation is, without a doubt, the absolute most neglected direction of hip movement, period. If your hips feel perpetually tight despite doing months and months of yoga and stretching, yeah, this is exactly why we are completely missing out on internal rotation. And that brings us to the final step, Move 5, Seated Hip Internal Rotations, version 2. You're going to be in the exact same starting position as the last move, but this time, as you rotate, you actively extend one leg out straight. Now, this is a harder progression. Actually, extending that leg adds significantly more range and a heck of a lot more load onto the joint. It requires real active muscular control, making it a much harder but incredibly vital progression to master. So that's the whole routine right there, 5 moves, 10 minutes total. But adopting this requires a major mindset shift. Just consider the difference here, 10 minutes a day versus 70 minutes once a week. The success of this mobility fix relies entirely on short, daily consistency. Doing massive 70-minute mobility binges on a Sunday afternoon simply do not work. Our joints need frequent, daily mechanical input to actually adapt and create lasting change. 10. That is the magic number. 10 minutes daily. If we consistently show up and do this every single day, our mobility is going to go absolutely bananas. And this isn't just some hopeful theory either. The research fully backs this up. Consistency will always beat intensity when it comes to actively controlling your joints. Now, taking a really quick pivot here to our final section to acknowledge the source of this explainer, Yellow Dude, 1.5 million subscribers. To celebrate that seriously awesome milestone, they're doing something really fun for their community, the mystery box drop. Now, this is highly limited to just 200 boxes. Inside, it's packed with workout gear, collectibles, and a few exclusive things that'll never be sold separately. The catch? The contents are a total mystery until you actually get it and open the box. So if you're interested, the link to check that out is in their description. And remember, when they are gone, they are completely gone. Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. Are you ready to stop stretching passively and start actively controlling your mobility? The difference between just hoping gravity somehow fixes your joints and actively commanding your body's range of motion is literally the difference between a lifetime of constant tightness and true freedom of movement. Your body requires mechanical input. So will you start your 10 minutes today?